my comfortable little home in my comfortable little house and headed off to a great big unknown called college. And here's the thing. I never came back home. Oh, I'd come home for Thanksgiving, and I'd come home for Christmas, and I would come home every once in a while with 40 loads of clothes for Mom, and all of the standard, predictable things that a college kid does when one returns home. But I never came back home to stay. Never again. Home for me got redefined in the years which followed high school graduation. We'll come back to this idea, but for now let's return to today's story. The first thing to recognize about this story is its brevity. We wish we had more information, but we don't. Joseph has yet another dream. This is dream number 3 that has happened to Joseph. And the news this time is really good. King Herod is dead, and it is now safe for Joseph and Mary and Jesus to return not only to Israel, but to their hometown of Nazareth. How long had they lived in Egypt? I wish I could tell you. We just don't know. Theologians throughout the centuries have done historical studies on King Herod and exactly how long he ruled and when was the approximate date of his death. That might give us some idea of how long they were in Egypt. But that exact date still remains somewhat of a mystery. If we knew the precise time, then that would tell us the approximate age of Jesus when they returned to Israel. The important verse, however, is verse 21. So Joseph got up, took the child and his mother, and went back to the land of Israel. Joseph got up, and then the family traveled back home. We should not underestimate the importance of those 3 words. Joseph got up. This is not the only time in the Bible where it is important for someone to get back up. Jesus tells us the parable of the prodigal son. The young man demands his inheritance from his father, and then he leaves home and foolishly spends all of the money. You're familiar with this story. But now he needs money. He's out there slopping the pigs. He falls down in the muck and mire, and at that moment, there in the mud, it dawns on him, I had it better off working for my father. Would he take me back? And the text reads this way. When he came to his senses, he got up and went back to his father. And do you remember the story of Jacob who tricked his brother Esau into taking away the birthright of Esau? The trick was really on their father Isaac. Well, it's now years later, and Esau has been, well, he's done well in his life, and he has assembled an army of people. And Jacob is not far from where Esau is with his army, and Jacob is very frightened that Esau is going to come to him and kill him. Why? Because years earlier, he stole Esau's birthright. The night before they would meet, and Jacob thought it would be a battlefield where they would meet. A night before they met, Jacob was up all night wrestling with, we're not sure here, either with God himself or with one of God's angels. It really doesn't matter. Jacob wasn't going to win the wrestling match. And in the process, Jacob hurt his thigh. And what it ended up doing was making him a more are a humble man. And the text reads, Jacob awakened, and then he got up to wrestle the Lord. Well, that match lasted hours into the night, and as I say, the result was that Jacob was humbled by that experience. When he met Esau, his brother, the next day, Esau didn't want to take his life. He wanted his brother back. Imagine that. And that too humbled Jacob. And do you remember the man Jairus, who had a daughter? She was quite ill. And they sent news to Jesus to please come as fast as possible to Jairus' house to try to heal the daughter. Well, on the way, the daughter died. And when Jesus gets there, the family and the townsfolk are all in mourning. He's too late. He didn't get here in time to heal her. Jesus goes into the house. He takes only Peter, James, and John with him. And he goes in and he says, "My child, get up." And she comes back to life. And she stands up. She's confused, she's startled, she's shaken, but the young girl got up. I could go on and on and on if you just do a run through the entire Bible. The times that people get up is amazing. There's story after story after story. But the same theme is found in all of these stories. It comes with people who need to start again, to start anew. And they begin that by getting back up. Each one of these people that I have identified in the Bible could have curled up into the fetal position and remained in bed, too frightened to get up, too frightened to face the unexpected future. But that's not what happened in any one of these stories. Each one of them got up. The same scene happens today, again and again. It happens with you as a congregation. It comes with a doctor's diagnosis, with the death of a loved one, at times of divorce, when a job is lost, with the breakup of a lifelong love relationship, with a woman who has been raped or abused, with the breadwinner who comes home and tells his family that if he is to keep his job, the family must move far away to a new location. But you get the picture, don't you? The news can be overwhelming. Jacob truly thought Esau was coming to kill him, but God was only trying to humble him. The young girl who was healed by Jesus could have been overcome by fear. After all, she had really died. And the prodigal son, well, his pride could have gotten in the way. That's what happened to his older brother. When the younger prodigal son returned home and went into the house with his father for a celebration, Jesus tells us this parable, and he ends it with the older son standing outside of the house. His pride wouldn't let him go inside, forgive his brother. We don't have a lot of information about Joseph, do we? I wish we did. We tend to believe that Mary was probably in her teens and that Joseph was older, maybe even considerably older. But we just don't have much information about him. But what we do have is every time an angel told him to get up, he got up. He followed the letter of the instructions perfectly. Life can knock us down. The examples that I listed just a moment ago are just the tip of the iceberg of ways that life can overwhelm us. I've been knocked down before. I know what depression is like. So much so, I had to be on medication to get through that. I know what starting over from scratch is all about. I know what being completely broke is like. I mean, completely broke. And how frightening that can be. I know what death can bring to a family. I know what wanting to give up feels like. I've been dumped into a fetal position more than once. But the answer is not to remain there. And the first step is to get up. Get up one more time, even if you don't know what's exactly ahead, what's next, what's even lurking around the corner. You get up. By the grace of God, you get up. And God will raise you up. He's the one that gets us up, isn't he? It is at such a time as this when God does his best work in us. As you drive from Chillicothe to Trenton, there is a billboard sign, and I forget what's on the top of the sign. My eyes were solely on the bottom part of the sign, so I can't tell you what's at the top. But the bottom of the sign says this: God's got this. He's got this. Is that a message that you need to hear today? That God's got this. Joseph, get up and take your family back to Nazareth. God's got this. My child, you just died, but I have brought you back to life. Get up. I've got this. Son, you have fallen into the barnyard mud. Get up and go back home to your father. God's got this. Jacob, you have been a lying and a cheating scoundrel all of your life. I'm going to wrestle with you all night long. I'm going to humble you. Your brother is coming tomorrow. And don't forget, just like Abraham, just like your father Isaac, God's got this. Home, ultimately, is not limited to a house and to a family, as important as those things are. But life has a way of throwing us curves where we no longer end up with the same house, and we no longer get to keep the same family. Home is ultimately not limited to a house and to a family. Home is when God says to you, get up. I've got this for you. Home is anywhere and anytime God helps you get up once again. Amen.